The spring sunshine filtered through the glass ceiling of the Riverside Botanical Gardens, painting everything in soft golden light. Natalie Brooks adjusted the strap of her camera bag and took a deep breath. She didn't usually attend these charity events, but Whitney had insisted. "Come on, Nat," her coworker had pleaded earlier that week. "It's for the children's hospital. There'll be free food, and you can take all the flower pictures you want for your photography hobby." Standing among hundreds of blooming roses, Natalie had to admit Whitney was right. The gardens were spectacular. "I'm getting champagne," Whitney announced, already heading toward the refreshment tent. "Don't disappear into the orchids like last time." Natalie laughed and waved her off, already pulling out her camera. Photography wasn't just a hobby anymore. It was her escape from the corporate grind at Brightwell Marketing, where she'd spent the last 5 years climbing from junior copywriter to marketing director. She wandered deeper into the rose garden, capturing the way afternoon light caught on crimson petals, how dewdrops sparkled on white blooms. Through her viewfinder, the world made sense. Everything had composition, balance, purpose. That's when she saw him. He stood near an archway covered in climbing roses, apparently lost in thought. Tall, with dark hair that looked slightly disheveled by the breeze, wearing a simple gray sweater and jeans that seemed out of place among the cocktail dresses and suits. But it wasn't his appearance that caught her attention. It was the way he looked at the flowers. Most people at these events barely noticed the gardens. They were too busy networking, schmoozing, making connections. But this man stood perfectly still, studying a particular rose with such genuine fascination that Natalie found herself lifting her camera without thinking. The late afternoon sun hit him perfectly. The roses framed him like nature's own portrait studio. His expression held something rare, something honest that made her finger press the shutter button. Almost on instinct click, the sound seemed impossibly loud in that moment. Natalie's heart jumped as his head turned directly toward her. Even from 20 feet away, she could see his eyes, deep brown and intelligent, lock onto hers. A slow smile spread across his face. The moment of panic, Natalie felt heat flood her cheeks. What was she thinking? You couldn't just photograph strangers without permission, even at a public event. This wasn't some anonymous street photography project. This was creepy. The man started walking toward her. Panic seized Natalie's chest. She shoved her camera back into her bag with shaking hands and turned quickly, nearly colliding with an elderly couple admiring the flower beds. "Excuse me," she mumbled, dodging around them. "Wait," she heard behind her. His voice was deeper than she expected. Warm. "I don't mind, really." "I'm actually flattered," but Natalie was already speed-walking back toward the main pavilion, her face burning hotter than the afternoon sun. She could hear Whitney calling her name somewhere in the distance, but she didn't stop. She needed to leave, now immediately. She found Whitney near the champagne fountain, chatting with someone from accounting. "I have to go," Natalie hissed, grabbing her friend's arm. Whitney's eyes widened. "What? Why?" "I just got here. Please. I'll explain in the car. We just need to leave." Something in Natalie's voice must have convinced her, because Whitney set down her glass and followed without further protest. Only when they were safely in Whitney's car, pulling out of the parking lot, did Natalie allow herself to breathe. "Okay, spill," Whitney demanded. "What happened? Did someone harass you? Because I will turn this car around." "No, nothing like that." Natalie covered her face with her hands. "I did something so embarrassing. There was this guy, and he was just standing there looking at the roses. I took his picture without asking, and he saw me, and I just ran." Whitney was quiet for a moment. Then she burst out laughing. "Right. It's not funny," Natalie protested, but she was starting to laugh too. The absurdity of the situation finally hitting her. "You literally ran away from a hot guy at a flower show because you liked his face too much to not photograph it." Whitney managed between giggles. "That's the most Natalie Brooks thing I've ever heard. Monday morning changes everything. The weekend passed too slowly." Natalie tried to forget about the garden incident, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw that smile. The way his expression had shifted from surprise to amusement when he'd caught her. She'd looked at the photo exactly once before deleting it. He'd been even more striking in the image than in person, which seemed impossible. But keeping it felt wrong. like holding on to evidence of her moment of social awkwardness. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and an email that made Natalie's coffee go cold subject. Mandatory all-staff meeting, 9 a.m. Sharp Brightwell Marketing is pleased to announce our merger with Crosstech Innovations. Please attend this morning's meeting to meet our new leadership team and learn about exciting changes ahead. The office buzzed with nervous energy. Mergers meant restructuring, which meant possible layoffs. Natalie had worked too hard to lose her position now.
Did you hear?
Whitney whispered, sliding into the seat next to Natalie in the packed conference room. The new CEO is some tech genius who made his first million at 25. Dean Foster said he's brilliant but intense. Natalie's stomach nodded. Brilliant and intense usually meant unreasonable expectations and impossible deadlines. Dean Foster, their current CEO, stood at the front of the room, looking older than his 60 years. Thank you all for coming. As you know, Brightwell Marketing has been acquired by Crosstech Innovations. This merger will allow us to expand our services and reach new markets we've only dreamed about. He gestured toward the door. Please welcome Julian Cross, CEO of Crosstech Innovations, and now of our combined company. The door opened. Natalie's entire world stopped. Walking into the conference room, wearing an impeccably tailored navy suit, carrying himself with quiet confidence, was the man from the garden. The man whose photos she'd taken, the man she'd run away from. Their eyes met across the room. She watched recognition flash across his face, followed by that same slow smile she remembered from 3 days ago. He remembered. Of course he remembered. Thank you, Dean, Julian said, his voice filling the room with easy authority. But his gaze kept returning to Natalie, like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. I'm excited to work with such talented people. Crosstech specializes in innovation, and I see tremendous potential in this team. He outlined his vision for the company, his plans for growth. Everyone seemed captivated by his charisma and clear intelligence. Everyone except Natalie, who was mentally calculating whether she could transfer to another department or perhaps move to another country. I'll be meeting with department heads individually, Julian continued, but there's one position I need to fill immediately. I'm looking for someone creative, someone who understands both traditional marketing and emerging digital trends. Someone who can see things others miss. Please don't, Natalie thought desperately. Julian's eyes found hers again. There was definitely amusement dancing in them now. Natalie Brooks, I've reviewed your portfolio. Your work is exceptional. I'd like you to lead the marketing team for our new product launch. We'll be working very closely together. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Whitney grabbed Natalie's hand under the table, squeezing hard. Dean beamed. Excellent choice. Natalie is one of our brightest stars. Miss Brooks. Julian prompted when she didn't respond. What do you say? What could she say? This was the opportunity of a lifetime. Leading a major product launch would cement her career. It was also potentially the most mortifying situation she'd ever faced. Natalie stood on shaking legs, aware of everyone watching. I'd be honored, Mr. Cross. Wonderful. His smile widened, just slightly. Please see me after this meeting. We have much to discuss, and I'm very interested in your perspective on things. As he continued his presentation, Natalie sank back into her chair, her mind spinning. Whitney leaned close. Is it just me, or was that kind of flirty? You're imagining things, Natalie whispered back. But her racing heart suggested otherwise. Her phone buzzed silently. A text from her sister Chloe. Mom, just told me about your company merger. Send pics if the new boss is cute. Natalie glanced at Julian, who was answering questions with practiced ease, occasionally looking her way. She had a feeling the next few weeks were going to be very complicated. Natalie's first official meeting with Julian Cross was scheduled for Tuesday morning. She'd spent Monday evening preparing, reviewing every marketing campaign she'd ever led, anticipating questions, building armor against her embarrassment. None of it helped. Come in. Julian called when she knocked on his new corner office door at exactly 9. Oh, single quotes, the space had been transformed over the weekend. Where Dean Foster had kept family photos and golf trophies, Julian had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, and a single photograph on his desk that Natalie couldn't quite see from the doorway. Miss Brooks, he stood, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Thank you for being punctual. I appreciate that quality, of course. Mr. Cross. Natalie sat, placing her tablet on her lap, ready to discuss marketing strategies and product launches and anything except botanical gardens. Julian settled back into his chair, studying her with those intelligent brown eyes. Before we discuss work, can we address the elephant in the room? Natalie's carefully constructed professionalism crumbled slightly. I really am sorry about the garden incident. It was inappropriate, and I deleted the photo immediately. I promise I'm not some weird stalker who photographs random people you thought I was photogenic, Julian interrupted, amusement clear in his voice. In a garden? Surrounded by flowers. That's hardly criminal behavior. It's still strange to photograph someone without permission. Photographers do it all the time. Street photography, candid shots, capturing authentic moments. He leaned forward slightly. What made you want to capture that particular moment? Natalie hesitated. Professional boundaries suggested she should deflect, change the subject, steer back to business. But something in his expression, genuine curiosity without judgment, made her answer honestly. He looked peaceful, she said quietly. Everyone else at that event was performing, networking, putting on faces. But you were just standing there, really seeing the flowers. It felt rare. Worth remembering. Julian was quiet for a moment, something shifting in his expression. I'd just closed the biggest deal of my career that morning, the merger with Brightwell. I went to that garden event because I needed to remember why I do what I do. Success means nothing if you lose the ability to appreciate simple beauty. Their eyes met, and Natalie felt something pass between them. Understanding, maybe. Recognition of a kindred spirit. So, Julian said, his tone shifting to business even as his eyes remained warm. Let's talk about this product launch. Working late into the night, the next 3 weeks blurred together in a whirlwind of meetings, strategy sessions, and late nights at the office. Julian's new product was revolutionary. It's an app that used artificial intelligence to help small businesses optimize their marketing without needing expensive agencies. It could change the entire industry. It also required brutal hours to launch properly. I think we should target the healthcare sector first, Natalie suggested one Thursday evening. They were alone in the conference room, Chinese takeout containers scattered across the table, city lights glittering through the windows. It was past 9, and most of the office had gone home hours ago. Julian looked up from his laptop, his tie long since discarded, sleeves rolled up. Explain your reasoning. Healthcare providers are drowning in administrative work. They need marketing help, but rarely have the budget for traditional agencies. Our platform could genuinely make their lives easier, and if we prove success there, other sectors will follow. He smiled, that slow smile she was becoming dangerously familiar with. You see the human element in everything, don't you? Most marketers would have suggested tech startups or e-commerce. You thought about who actually needs help. Isn't that the point? Natalie asked, surprised. Marketing should serve people, not just profit margins. You'd be amazed how many people forget that. Julian stood, walking to the window. The city sprawled below them, millions of lights representing millions of lives. When I started CrossTech, I wanted to democratize technology, make tools accessible to everyone, not just those who could afford expensive consultants. Somewhere along the way, I got caught up in metrics and market share and forgot the mission. He turned back to her. That garden event? I was having a crisis of purpose, wondering if I'd sold out my original vision. Then this woman photographed me like I was worth capturing, and when I tried to talk to her, she ran away. I spent the entire weekend thinking about why. Natalie's heart was beating too fast. What conclusion did you reach? That maybe she saw something in me I'd forgotten existed. Something worth preserving. He moved back toward the table, but didn't sit, standing close enough that she had to tilt her head to meet his eyes. When I walked into that conference room Monday and saw you sitting there, I thought, maybe fate was giving me a second chance. Second chance at what? The words came out barely above a whisper, at getting to know the woman who sees beauty in quiet moments. Who thinks about healthcare providers at 9 p.m. on a Thursday? Who runs away when she's embarrassed but shows up the next day ready to work anyway? The dinner that changed things, the professional boundary between them had been eroding for weeks, but Natalie had maintained her composure. Until the business dinner, Julian had invited 5 department heads to dinner with a potential investor. Natalie almost declined, but Whitney had insisted. It's a business dinner, perfectly appropriate. You need to go. The restaurant was elegant, expensive. It's the kind of place where Natalie felt slightly out of place, despite her best navy dress. She was seated between Whitney and the investor, a silver-haired woman named Patricia Wang, who'd made her fortune in sustainable technology. So tell me, Miss Brooks, Patricia said over appetizers, what made you choose marketing as a career? Honestly, I didn't choose it. It chose me. Natalie smiled. I studied photography in college, thought I'd be an artist. But I needed to eat, so I took a copywriting job. Turned out I was good at telling stories about products, finding the human angle that makes people care. Marketing became my art form, just with different tools. She's being modest, Julian said from across the table, his eyes on Natalie. I've reviewed her entire portfolio. Her campaigns don't just sell products. They create emotional connections, build communities. That healthcare campaign she ran last year increased client retention by 40%. Because she understood what doctors actually needed, not what data said they wanted. Natalie felt her cheeks warm under his praise and his gaze. The dinner continued with business talk and industry gossip. But Natalie kept catching Julian watching her. Not in a creepy way, in a way that made her feel seen or understood, valued beyond her productivity metrics. As they were leaving, Patricia pulled Natalie aside. That young man is half in love with you, she said quietly, nodding toward Julian, who was helping Whitney with her coat across the restaurant. What? No, we're just colleagues. I've been in business for 40 years, dear. I know the difference between professional respect and personal interest. The question is, what are you going to do about it? When secrets come out the following week, Natalie was working from home when her sister Chloe showed up unannounced. I brought coffee and nosiness, Chloe announced, barging into Natalie's apartment. At 24, she had none of Natalie's professional reserve. All enthusiasm and zero filter. I'm working, Natalie protested. But she accepted the coffee. Chloe plopped onto the couch, immediately noticing Natalie's laptop screen. Is that your hot boss? Natalie quickly closed the window. But not before Chloe saw the product launch presentation, featuring several photos of Julian at various company events. He's attractive, Natalie admitted carefully, but he's my boss. Nothing can happen. Why not? Office romances happen all the time, because I worked hard to get where I am. I won't risk my career for some crush. Chloe was quiet for a moment, then her eyes widened. Oh my God. You still have the photo. What photo? The garden photo. You said you deleted it, but you didn't, did you? You transferred it to your cloud storage. I saw it when I borrowed your tablet last month. Natalie's face burned. I was going to delete it. You kept it because you felt something. That day in the garden, before you knew who he was or what he could do for your career, you felt something real. Her sister's words haunted Natalie for the rest of the week. By Friday, when Julian asked her to stay late too, review final marketing materials, she'd made a decision. We need to talk, Natalie said, closing his office door. Julian looked up from his computer, immediately attentive. That sounds serious? It is. She took a breath. I appreciate everything you've done for my career. This product launch has been incredible, and I've learned so much working with you. But I think after this project concludes, I should request a transfer to a different department. His expression shifted, carefully neutral. May I ask why? Because I can't keep working this closely with you and maintain the professionalism this job requires. Natalie, you've been amazing to work with. You're brilliant and kind, and you actually listen to people's ideas. You remember everyone's coffee orders and ask about their families, and you have this way of making people feel valued. She was talking faster now, the words tumbling out. And that's the problem. Because somewhere between the late nights and the shared takeout, and the way you look at me like I'm saying something profound when I'm just talking about marketing demographics, I started feeling things I shouldn't feel about my boss. The office was silent except for the quiet hum of the city outside. Then Julian stood, walking around his desk. What if I told you I've been planning to offer you a promotion? Director of Brand Strategy, reporting directly to the board instead of to me? Natalie blinked. What? It's been in the works for 2 weeks. I was waiting until after the product launch to make it official. He stopped in front of her, close but not touching. Because I've been having the same problem? I can't keep working this closely with you and pretend I only see an employee. I see the woman from the garden, the one who captures beauty, who thinks about people before profit, who runs when she's scared but always comes back braver. Julian, if you take the promotion, we wouldn't have a direct reporting relationship anymore. Company policy would allow us to pursue something personal if we both wanted to. Natalie's heart was racing. Is that why you're offering the promotion? To remove the professional barrier? I'm offering the promotion because you've earned it. You're the most talented marketer I've ever worked with, and frankly, you're wasted as a team lead. You should be shaping strategy at the highest level. He paused. But yes, I won't pretend the timing isn't convenient for personal reasons. What if it doesn't work? Natalie asked quietly. What if we try this, and it falls apart? The company, our work, what if it does work? Julian countered. What if we find something real? Isn't that worth the risk? Natalie spent the weekend in turmoil. Chloe had been thrilled when she'd called to explain the situation. He created a promotion so he could date you ethically. That's literally the most romantic thing I've ever heard. Or it's the most complicated, Natalie had countered. What if people think I only got promoted because he likes me? What if I accept and it ruins everything? But Monday morning, walking into the office with her decision made, Natalie felt surprisingly calm. Whitney caught her at the coffee machine. You look different. Good different. What happened? I'm taking the promotion, Natalie said. And I'm going to see where things go with Julian. Whitney nearly dropped her mug. Finally. I've been watching you two dance around each other for weeks. It was painful. Was it that obvious? To everyone, except apparently you two. Half the office has a betting pool on when you'll finally admit your feelings. Natalie laughed despite herself. That's deeply inappropriate workplace behavior. So is making hard eyes at your CEO during budget meetings. But here we are. Confronting the complications, Julian's office door was open when Natalie arrived at 9. He was on a call, but when he saw her, he mouthed 5 minutes and held up 5 fingers. She waited in the hallway, rehearsing what she wanted to say. 4 minutes and 30 seconds later, he ended the call. Natalie? Come in, she entered, closing the door behind her. I've made my decision about the promotion. Julian stood, his professional mask firmly in place, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. And I accept. With one condition, name it. If we're going to do this, if we're going to try something personal alongside our professional relationship, we need to be completely honest with each other. No games, no pretending. If one of us has doubts, we talk about it. If the personal stuff starts affecting the work, we address it immediately. Agreed. He moved closer. Any other conditions? Just one more. We take it slow. I don't want to rush into something and regret it later. How slow are we talking? There was amusement in his voice now, the tension breaking. Maybe we could start with an actual date? One where we're not discussing quarterly projections or marketing demographics? Julian smiled. That warm, genuine smile she'd first captured in the garden. I think I can manage that. Are you free Saturday evening? I am. Good. Because I've been wanting to take you somewhere since the day I met you. The board's concerns, the promotion announcement went public on Tuesday. Natalie had prepared for questions. Maybe some sideways looks from colleagues who hadn't seen the weeks of late, nights and brilliant work she'd put in. She hadn't prepared for Dean Foster to request a meeting. Natalie. Come in, the semi-retired CEO said, gesturing to a chair in his modest office. He'd stayed on as an advisor during the merger transition. "I wanted to discuss your promotion." Her stomach sank. "Is there a problem?" "Not exactly. But several board members have expressed concerns about the optics." "Optics." Dean sighed, looking uncomfortable. "You're a talented marketer, Natalie. No one disputes that. But you've also been working very closely with Julian. And now suddenly you're being promoted to a position that removes the direct reporting relationship right after the product launch. Succeeds. You think people will assume I'm being promoted? Because of a personal relationship. Saying we need to ensure that's not the perception. For your sake, as much as the company's." Natalie felt anger flash through her. "I've worked here for 5 years. I've led successful campaigns, mentored junior staff, consistently exceeded my targets. This promotion is based on merit. I know that. Julian knows that. But the board needs to protect the company from any appearance of impropriety." Paused. "They're requesting that you postpone any personal relationship with Julian for 6 months. Until the promotion is fully established and your value in the new role is clear. 6 months? It's not ideal, I know, but it would eliminate any questions about favoritism or conflicts of interest." Natalie left the meeting feeling shaken. She went straight to Julian's office. "They're asking us to wait 6 months, she said without preamble. "The board thinks our timing looks suspicious." Julian's expression darkened. "Dean told me. I'm fighting it. What if they're right? What if people do think I only got promoted because you want to date me? Then they're idiots who don't know your work." He came around the desk, frustration evident. "You earned this promotion? I have documentation to prove it, performance reviews, project outcomes, peer feedback. Anyone who questions your qualifications is looking for scandal, not truth. But if the board is concerned, the board is overcautious. They're worried about lawsuits and bad press. But we've done everything right, Natalie. You're qualified. The promotion is legitimate, and our personal feelings don't change either of those facts." She sank into a chair. "Maybe we should wait, just to be safe? Is that what you want? I want to know that my career advancement is based on my abilities, not on who I'm dating." Julian was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, tapping through several screens before handing it to her. "This is the internal memo I drafted 3 weeks ago, before I ever offered you the promotion. It outlines the need for a director of brand strategy position and the qualifications required. Read the last paragraph." Natalie scanned the document. The last paragraph listed 3 potential candidates, evaluating each one's strengths and weaknesses. Her name was at the top. "Natalie Brooks demonstrates the strongest combination of creative vision and strategic thinking," she read aloud. "Her ability to identify underserved markets and develop authentic brand narratives makes her the ideal candidate for this role. Recommendation: offer position immediately following product launch completion." She looked up at him. "You wrote this before the board got involved?" "I wrote it before I even told you about my feelings. Because you're the best person for the job. Period. Everything else is secondary." Saturday's revelation, their first official date, was supposed to be dinner at an upscale Italian restaurant. Instead, Julian picked Natalie up Saturday evening in jeans and a casual shirt. "Change of plans," he said when she answered the door in her carefully selected dress. "Wear something comfortable. Bring your camera if you have it." 20 minutes later, they pulled into the Riverside Botanical Gardens. "You're kidding," Natalie said, laughing as she recognized the entrance. "I thought we should return to the scene of the crime. Properly this time." The gardens were hosting an evening event, paths lit by thousands of tiny lights, live music drifting through the air. It was magical. They walked slowly through the rose garden, Julian's hand warm in hers. "I need to confess something," he said, as they reached the archway where she'd first photographed him. "That day wasn't entirely coincidental." "What do you mean?" "I'd been researching Brightwell marketing for weeks, preparing for the merger. I saw your staff photo on the website, read about your campaigns. When I showed up at this garden event and saw you there with your camera, I thought it was chance. But part of me wondered if maybe I'd chosen this event because I knew Brightwell employees often attended." Natalie stopped walking. "You knew who I was before I took your photo?" Not consciously, but maybe subconsciously? I don't know. What I do know is that when you photographed me, when you looked at me like I was worth capturing without knowing about my money or my company, it felt like the universe was telling me to pay attention. When I ran away, I was disappointed, then intrigued. Women don't usually run from me. They run toward me, usually with business cards and investment pitches. He smiled. You were different. You saw me, not what I could do for you. They sat on a bench surrounded by night-blooming jasmine, the sweet scent filling the air. Still have the photo, Natalie admitted. I told everyone I deleted it, but I kept it. It's in my cloud storage. Can I see it? She pulled out her phone, navigating to her private folder. The image appeared, Julian standing among the roses, that peaceful expression she'd captured. You're right, he said softly. I do look peaceful. I haven't felt that way in years, except lately, when I'm with you. The decision that matters. Monday morning, Natalie requested a meeting with the board's ethics committee. Julian tried to talk her out of it, but she was determined. You want to address the concerns directly? The committee chair, a stern woman named Margaret Price, looked surprised. I've prepared documentation of my qualifications, my performance reviews, project outcomes, and peer evaluations from the past 5 years. I want to make it clear that my promotion is merit-based. For the next hour, Natalie presented her case. She showed campaigns she'd led that increased revenue, testimonials from colleagues and clients, data proving her strategic value. She was thorough, professional, unshakable. When she finished, Margaret leaned back in her chair. Miss Brooks, I'll be honest. We were concerned about appearances, but after seeing this presentation, I'm concerned we might lose you if we don't support this promotion. Have you considered that other companies would pay significantly more for your skills? I'm not interested in other companies. I believe in what we're building here. And your relationship with Mr. Cross will be conducted with complete transparency and professionalism. If it affects my work negatively, I'll address it. If anyone has concerns about favoritism, they can review my performance metrics, which will speak for themselves. Margaret exchanged glances with the other committee members. We'll need to discuss this. But off the record, I wish more employees were as direct and well-prepared as you. We'll have our decision by end of week. Coming full circle Friday afternoon, Natalie received an email. The promotion was approved, effective immediately. No waiting period required. She went straight to Julian's office. They approved it, she said, waving her phone. No conditions, no delays. He stood, coming around the desk with that smile she loved. I never doubted you. You won them over with data and logic, exactly as you should have. So we can do this? Really do this? If you still want to, Natalie laughed. I photographed you in a garden, ran away like a scared teenager, got promoted under his intense scrutiny, and confronted a board of directors to defend our right to date. At this point, it would be wasteful to quit now. Julian pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her waist. I need to show you something. He led her to his desk, picking up the framed photograph she'd noticed weeks ago. It was her photo from the garden, the one she'd thought she'd deleted, professionally printed and matted. How did you? You mentioned it was in your cloud storage during our conversation last week. I may have asked your sister for access. Chloe, I'm going to kill her. Please don't. She was very helpful. She also told me you've been carrying a print of this photo in your wallet for weeks. Natalie felt her face heat. That's not true. I mean, it is true, but she shouldn't have told you. I keep this on my desk, Julian said seriously, because it reminds me of something important. That day in the garden, I was questioning everything. My career, my choices, whether success was worth the cost. Then, you looked at me like I was worth preserving exactly as I was. No performance, no pretense, just me. He set the frame down, turning to face her fully. You saved me that day, Natalie. You reminded me why beauty matters, why quiet moments matter, why seeing people truly matters. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you. You're not going to, Natalie said softly. I'm exactly where I want to be. Epilogue. 6 months later, the product launch had been a massive success. The app had exceeded all projected downloads, and healthcare providers across the country were singing its praises. Natalie's marketing strategy had been featured in 3 industry publications. More importantly, she and Julian had built something real. "I can't believe you're making me do this," Natalie complained as they walked through the Riverside Botanical Gardens on a crisp autumn afternoon. "You love it?" Julian countered, adjusting his grip on the picnic basket. They'd made it a tradition, returning to the gardens every month, sometimes for work brainstorming sessions, sometimes for quiet dates, always with her camera. Today felt different, though. Julian seemed nervous. They reached the rose archway, now bursting with fall colors instead of spring blooms. "This is where it started," Julian said, setting down the basket. "6 months ago, you saw something in me worth capturing. Today, I want to capture something with you." He pulled out a small box. Natalie's heart stopped. "I know we agreed to take things slow," Julian continued, opening the box to reveal a simple, elegant ring. "And I'm not asking you to marry me right now. I'm asking if you'll consider building a future with me. A real one. Beyond the company and the product launches and the professional achievements." Tears pricked Natalie's eyes. "You're asking me to think about maybe potentially getting engaged someday? I'm asking if you'll let me love you properly and officially, with the intention of forever." She laughed through the tears. "That's the most technically correct romantic proposal I've ever heard. Is that a yes?" "It's an absolutely yes." She kissed him. There in the garden, where everything had started, where a single photograph had changed both their lives. Later, walking hand in hand through the gardens, Natalie raised her camera and captured Julian laughing at something she'd said. This time he knew she was photographing him. This time he was looking right at her, love clear in his eyes. Some moments were worth preserving. Some people were worth running toward instead of away from. And sometimes the most embarrassing mistakes led to the most beautiful beginnings. Whitney had been right all along. It really was the most Natalie Brooks thing ever.